Hi, I'm Chris, and this is ExamDebug. Today we're going to be looking at how to import CSV files into our database. So this is really important if you're doing the IGCSE exam, because they almost always have a section where you're going to have to import a CSV file. So let's start with a blank database, and we can give it any name. I'll just keep it as database1 for now, and create. So I've created this database, but what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to bring in a new table from outside of the database in a special file. This file usually is CSV, which is a sort of generic database file that can be opened by many different programs. One of the big confusions that happens early on is that on many Windows systems, if you double click on a CSV file, it will open it in Excel or in your spreadsheet program. So this can create a lot of confusion, and during the exam, if you open it in the wrong file and you start editing it there by mistake, you can waste time, or even worse, you could do it completely wrong. So be careful with that one. So to import a file, we go to this external data section, and then we choose, so first of all, be careful because we've got import and export here. Don't try and export things yet. We want to try and import. So if we go to text file for our CSV file, be careful again, because it says it's an Excel file, a lot of people try to use the Excel import, and that's not correct. So we want to import a text file. Okay, so we have three options here. But what we want to do is going to be this first one, and then later on we'll do the second one. But to begin with, we start with this: import the source data into a new table in the current database. So then we have to browse and find our file. Sorry, my system's in Chinese. Long story. And choose the file we want. So I'm going to import this N122 cars, which is a file from one of the past papers. Click OK. So that's the CSV file. And we're going to import the source to a new table. Click OK. So we then have these options. So the first one is separated by a character, and the other one is separated by spaces. So we can see here that ours is separated by the comma, so we choose characters. Click Next. Again, it's already detected a comma for us, but there is the possibility that we could have another character. As far as I'm aware, for the exams, we mainly use commas. I haven't yet seen them using something else. So when you get the right one, you'll see that it puts it into the nice, neat lines. The other thing to look out for, and you have to be very careful with, is this first row. So if you look here, we've got VIN, model. These don't fit with the rest of our data in those fields. So those are field names. So you'll notice there's an option here. First row contains field names. So if I click on this, it'll make it look a lot more sensible. Good. Click Next. So at this stage, it's very easy just to jump on and hit Next, 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 but we've got to be careful again. So we need to set up the correct data types that we want. So we'll give VIN, which is text, because it has numbers and text. It's a serial number of some kind. That's okay. Model, again, text, no problem. Power, letters, so text. Engine size. Now, engine size is tricky because engine size has numbers, but it also has these NA characters next to it. You have a choice here. If you're doing the exam, you really have to look ahead and see what kind of questions they're asking. Is it saying about size is greater than or less than? In which case, you're definitely going to have to set it up as a long integer. But by doing this, we're going to get an error later on because NA is not going to be able to go into a long integer type. So I'm going to put it as long integer because I want to be able to do calculations based on this engine size, or queries based on this engine size. Price, long integer is not correct. It's going to be currency. Color, text, no problem. Discount applied. Again, long integer should be okay. Location, text. Date sold, date time, correct. And salesperson, text. Okay, and our last one, sold here, has this -1. And later on, if you keep going down somewhere, you can't see it here, but if you have a look at the file directly, there's also zeros. So when you see -1 and 0 only in this column, then usually it is going to be a yes, no. So in a CSV file, Boolean values, yes, no values are represented by -1 and 0. So we change it to a yes, no. Okay, and that seems okay. But obviously, if you're doing this in the exam, go through, have a double check, because it's very hard to roll back. You might have to start again if you get a lot of these things wrong. Okay, and then we can do next. And we have a choice here. So let access add a primary key, or choose my own primary key, or no primary key. So we always want to have a primary key when we can. So this last option, we don't want now. That's maybe if you were going to add more information later. Let access add a primary key. That would be okay. But we already have this unique number. So there's no reason to waste all this extra space. So it's better that we choose our own primary key, and it's going to be the VIN number. So be careful, look out for natural primary keys. If there isn't one, okay, you can use let access to add one. If there is one, then try and use that instead so that you save space. Click next. And then import the table N122 cars. Okay, that's fine. And you can choose to analyze further, but I'm not going to do that today. So finish. Take a few seconds, and then So finished importing this file, but not all of my data was successfully imported. Oh no. Okay, so this is because, like we said before, I set it up as a long integer, and the NAs won't work. So that's all that's happened there. So we don't need to worry. So click close. And then we have this N122 cars. Ta-da! Which works. And we also have the import error. So it's just engine size row 2 is empty because previously it was NA. So again, you could put it in as text, but it depends what you are being asked to do with that information later on. If you're asked to search for engine sizes above or below certain sizes, then putting it in as a long integer makes more sense. Okay, so we're not quite finished yet though. So we've got our table here, but we've still got things that don't look very nice, like -1 over here. The price is in pounds, but maybe I don't want it in pounds, maybe I want it in euros. So, like before, I can go to home, and then I can go into the design view, and I can start changing some things in here. So, our data types were set up, but our properties were not. So we could change things like, we know the field sizes of a VIN number, it's always the same, so we don't need to have 255 characters. We could make that much smaller if we wanted to. Although I don't see this being asked very often or at all in the test. So you might not want to waste time on it, but in real life, it is something that's reasonably important. Okay, but we do want to make changes to things like our currency. So I want to change my currency to being euros, and I want 2 decimal places because that's what we generally have in euros. Likewise, you can change the date-time format if you wanted to, but maybe the yes-no is more important because we want to change the format to being yes-no, to get rid of those not very nice -1s and 0s. Okay, and yeah, that should do for the moment. Again, you could adjust field sizes if you like, but let's save it. And then we'll go back into our datasheet view, and we'll see that this has changed to yes, 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 yes. Down at the bottom, though, there are some no's. And here our price has changed to euros. So that would be a basic import for this. Next one we're going to have a look at is when we're asked to import into a file that we make by ourselves. But you can find that in the next video. So great, thanks for watching. If you have time, check out the website, ExamDebug.com, or subscribe to our videos to keep up with them as we add. Good luck with your exams.